Now, in case of straight lines such as this, creating something in isometric is still easy because obviously you have only straight lines. That means you know your angles, 120 here, 60 here. If I have a baseline over here, then 30 here, 30 here. Similarly, if there's a baseline here, 30 here, 30 here, 60 here, the total is 90 degree, and therefore you can figure it out. But what happens if you have a curve? Now, in isometric, in IGCSE, they will either give you a full circle or they will give you a semicircle to work with. So let's go back to our minion. What if this is a semicircle that has been given to you? So you have three options that they can give you. They can give you a semicircle. Yes, they can also give you a full circle, or they may choose to give you 1/4. They haven't yet, but you never know. And it's always a good idea to kind of know how to go about. So let's look at maybe a square rather than a rectangle and see how that goes for us. So you have a baseline, you have a starting point, you have one square line, so edge for a square, edge for a square, edge for a square, and then edge for a square. So let's say this is how your square is created. Now, when you have to make an isometric circle, take the midpoint on all of the edges. Now, this midpoint is already connected here, so you needn't bother with this one. However, this one is not connected, so you make an imaginary line, or you can make a construction line which connects this to this. Same way, this point is not connected to that corner, so you create that too. And you do the same thing with the two remaining midpoints. So you have one here, and similarly you have another there. Okay, so you get one line, two line, and basically you're taking lines from the shorter diagonal rather than the longer diagonal. So always remember, shorter diagonal is what you need to do, not the longer one. You have these four lines. This is your center 1, this is your center 2, that is your center 3, and that is your center 4. So what you do is you take the compass to this distance and you make an arc from here to there. So the compass pin stays here, the pencil stays here, and you make an arc over here, which means you get one arc somewhere here. Okay, same way you flip the compass around, so the pin now comes on center 2, the pencil comes over here, and you make another arc over here. Now these two lines intersect over here, that's C4, and these two intersect over here, that's C3. With the pin over here and the pencil over here, this as your radius, you draw an arc which will connect this point and that point. And similarly, when you put the pin over here and the pencil over there, you can construct another arc over there, and you will end up seeing a circle over here. Now imagine this being made if you had a square in orthography where everything was 90 degrees. You would do something similar. When you make your circle, the circle would be touching these so-called midpoints. How? You will take this midpoint, draw a line. You will take this midpoint, draw a line. You get the center of the square. This as your radius, you draw an arc all around. Now when you do that, it's touching these points, which is what it is doing over here as well. But in isometry, what happens is this piece gets skewed. So that means this becomes your 120 and this becomes your 120, and these two remain as 60 and 60, whereas in isometry, whereas in orthography they all remain as 90. So that is how you create the circle in isometric. Now let's say this is the minion which needs to be created in isometric, which means we are not going to look at a full circle, but we are going to look at a half circle.